Same question to start off with Baylor. When you look back in between national signing or early signings and then now on national signing, what has changed? How much has it shifted? Obviously, not the most encouraging season to start off with for Dave Aranda and running the Bears program, but what have they been able to do so far?
Well, first thing that I want to point out when you're looking at this isn't always about what happens on the recruiting list, right? The commit list. We're not always looking at that when we're looking at what's going to take place as these schools move forward in recruiting the next cycle and et cetera. They added back in James Blanchard to the recruiting personnel department. He's a guy who is very energetic, really knows Texas high school football well. And when you pair a guy like that up, a young up-and-coming recruiting guy with a Joey McGuire who's well-known to all the Texas high school. The
people's champ.
Yeah, the people's champ here in Texas. All the coaches recognize him. I think that gives Coach Aranda a good 1-2 punch on the recruiting side of things. And I really like their energy that they've now had in the last couple weeks, extending offers into the class of 2022, doing some great early evaluation work and making offers to guys who can play in the Big 12. But I know you're going to ask me about their 2021 class next, so I'll cue you up and we'll talk about some of those guys so I can tell you what I like. But I like the energy that they're bringing to the table underneath of Coach Blanchard right now. And then, of course, always there is Joey McGuire.
And now we go to Greg Powers for your thoughts on, this 21 class, especially, he's got the 1 year under his belt, like you said. He's got those ties, especially with Joey McGuire and everything, into that Texas high school football range. What do you see in this class, in his first real class he gets to bring in?
Well, before we talk about specific players, right, I want to say that I thought that they did an excellent job of evaluating up and down the line. They have some guys who stand out at the top of the list, like Tate Williams, who could be the best offensive line in this class by the time the dust settles, because he has such a high upside playing for a small school and just has freakish intangibles. He's a DCTF 4-star, has his picture in front of the tractor, which I love. So he's a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll. So he has and they got Jordan Jenkins from Lindell, another 4-star guy who's really special.
Very underrated in my mind.
Yeah, a guy who had one of my favorite comments of the whole year when he told you at the Next Level Athlete Camp that he sometimes got in trouble for running to contact instead of away from it. So I love those type of runners, who like to dish out punishment, and he's a guy who you can get a lot of carries to. But beyond that, I mean, all the guys on this list are guys who can play. Devin Lemire from Manor, safety that I really like. Javon Gibson from George Ranch. He's a wide receiver who I think goes very much under the radar, and when you pair him at 6'3", 190 pounds, with Elijah Bean at 6'5", 185 pounds, you see a great 1-2 punch on the outside moving forward there in that Baylor offense that could be quite special. And the first commitment in this class was Tyrone Brown, and he committed all the way back when Matt Rule was still the coach, and he stuck by that commitment the entire time. And I think he's one of these guys in this class who just doesn't get talked about enough,
right?
Because he committed so early. And I evaluated his senior tape, and he played so much better as a senior even than he did as a junior, and you love seeing that progression. And no one really talks about him because he did make that early commitment, but there are a lot of guys on that list like him who can really play. And I think in the national scope of things, this Baylor class may be one that's remembered for its depth, not necessarily its top-end talent.
Right, and I feel like this might be telling as to how Aranda's trying to run this program specifically. Obviously, we know he's a big defensive guy. He likes guys that are big, will go out there and hit. And like you said with the Jordan Jenkins comment, he was like, I used to get in trouble because I searched for contact. So it makes me wonder if we're about to see a little bit of a shift in the Baylor Bear program of guys who just want to go out there and get physical.
In that vein, he's got one of those guys in Denton Geyer defensive end Cooper Lands. This guy is just mean. That's what, I mean, like if you watch him play live, that's what jumps out. He's a mean defensive lineman. And to be honest, Kyron Drones from Shadow Creek, he's a guy who plays with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder at quarterback too. I don't want to describe him as mean. He's always been so nice whenever we've interviewed him or talked to him. But on the field and how he handles himself, he has a chip.
You don't want to mess with them.
Yeah, you see these type of guys in this class, and you hit that nail on the head. Those are the type of guys that you want on your sidelines when your back is against the wall in a tight game.